Alrighty. You there? Did you leave?
Yeah, hold on. I don't have a link yet.
Oh, you do sound a little bit better. You just sound a little bit like reverby. You'll be fine. Man, I'm so burned out. Got just from work like through this season. I just got like tested myself like 7 times for COVID. So, like I'm like, there's something wrong. We also had like an on-site following Thanksgiving week. Like, how dumb are corporations, man? Like, if you didn't think Thanksgiving travel season wasn't the seed, and then you have a mandatory on-site, which is basically watering that seed. Like, come on, man. It's like, how dumb are we as a society? Fucking just drives me. It drives me nuts how obviously stupid we are at times.
I mean, did you really need more evidence?
No, I just, I have hope for mankind to some extent that we learn because through history we both have and have not learned, you know?
Yeah.
I would hope that we would learn at a better rate than we are currently learning. Speaking of, my son and I played Quartermaster General yesterday, and that's a great little game there. It's like Risk, but it doesn't take as long, and the focus is different, and it's really more of a card game with a board than it is a board game, I suppose I would say. But it's a nice, fun combo. You can play it in like 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours, which for a dominate the world game is pretty.
That seems pretty good.
Pretty freakish. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and you can tell it's different every time. I recommend it if you find it on. I mean, it's worth full price. I recommend if you find it on sale, you might like it because I know you. I mean, you should find it on sale because you play 1.5 million board games, and it's like,
who, me?
Yeah. They make a bunch of other ones too. They made like a couple of different historical ones, but that one is. I mean, they're all the. I think they're all the same. It's all the same mechanic. You know how it works. Well, Facebook, you gonna post this or are you gonna?
Facebook is not gonna post it.
I don't fucking care. Someone added me on Facebook the other day, and I was like, FYI, I'm not gonna see it. Sorry. Like, I mean, I literally only post this, and then I have my Facebook in case there's like an emergency, like, I lose my job and I need to contact someone who's still on there. So the contact information.
Yeah.
That should be their slogan. Facebook, we're
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But not.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I'll take Facebook over LinkedIn any day. That's my least favorite. Least favorite. Dude, I have people. No. There are people who are actively applying for other jobs that I'm watching, and I'm like, you do know we see that, right? Like, hello. Anyway, what was that? Was that
Oh, that was just me telling Colin to come in when he came.
Telling Colin thing. How have your holidays been? All right so far?
Yeah, I mean,
they made Thanksgiving, but for me, Hanukkah floats, right? So I just consider
we had friends of mine come up for Friendsgiving again. So
cool.
Two of my X-Wing friends have basically stayed for a week. So they came up on Saturday and then left on Saturday. And it was Board Game of Palooza. We did a play test of the game I'm building for my master's project. Just played a bunch of stuff, ate too much food, drank too much beer. And it was good. It was a full week off from working on my capstone project. So I am now like, I've got 11 days of grad school left, and it is a lot.
Yeah, right.
To be teaching and trying to finish my project and write the 25-page narrative doc they want me to write, or had me write, basically. So it's a lot. Turns out getting a master's degree is a lot of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, holidays were great. It was like literally a 1 week pause, complete pause in my grad school work.
Right.
So I am pretty excited December 13th, I turn in everything, whatever
nice.
state it's in, and then December 14th, I start playing games again, video games, board games.
Oh, let me tell you, man, it is a definite 7. But as a fan of the first RoboCop movie, I'm loving RoboCop. It is. I mean, it is absolutely a 7.
Hmm.
But if you like the subject matter, the attention to detail in that game is perfect. And the fact that I can give parking tickets as RoboCop is just a like they one of the things that they keyed in on. I mean, not only did they recreate literally every location that you've seen in any RoboCop movie of the original 3.
Yeah.
And it has its own story, whatever. Like it's like every location's there. Like it's picture perfect.
Well, I
But they
just
key
before my
but
oh,
they
sorry,
key
man.
as I said, but they keyed in on, like, when you watch like RoboCop, a little less 1, much more 2 and 3, there were like little inflections of humor in there, and they nail that in a good
Nice.
way. Like,
Yeah.
it's great. So,
I finished most of between my 9th class and my capstone class, I did about 2/3 of Baldur's Gate 3, and
Yeah.
then held myself to an hour a day during my bike ride for Baldur's Gate 3 the rest of this full semester, and I just finished Baldur's Gate 3 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So that was my okay, I'm gonna take an hour away from capstone and I'm gonna play a video game.
Yeah.
I finished that game in 122 hours.
That's actually not bad compared to a lot of people.
Oh, it was so good though. That game was a
Yeah,
lot.
I
Yeah.
wish I could do fantasy. Like, I haven't, and I fired it up, and I appreciate it. I appreciate all the mechanics. I just, man, fantasy is such a hard turnoff for me.
I bounced off their other games, Larian's other games. Like
Yeah.
I tried Divine Divinity 2, and I was like, nope, this ain't for me.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a call in. Perfect. Call in.
Hello.
Hello, Colin.
Hello.
Sound more chipper, will you?
I'm really late and I don't have any of my stats up, so no.
Oh, well, there you go, I suppose.
But you're not a stats guy, Colin. You should be a gut guy. Let's go.
I mean,
You gotta let them know you're there.
I mean, you do. You don't want to have an unnecessary collision unless you're Tom Wilson.
Oh, jeez.
God, that guy.
Yeah, that fucking guy.
That fucking guy.
By the way, I have constantly replayed and everyone else on the ice gets a 10-minute misconduct. That has got to be
You can't do that.
the best. But you know what the best part about that is, and there's a logical reason for how he went about it, but it's still funny when you take a step back. Is that he starts, he issues those 2-minute penalties. So he starts, and then it feels like he just gives up halfway. Like, I know that's not what happened; those were separate penalties. But like, he's like, 2 minutes over here, 2 minutes over. You know what? Everyone else,
Yeah.
get the F off
he
the
would have
ice.
had to. He would have had to say otherwise. It's like this
It's his
dude
goddamn
here.
job. It's his goddamn job,
Yeah.
man.
10-minute misconduct. This dude here, 10 minutes. No,
Hey,
no, 7
hey,
minutes,
he's
not
keeping it tight
fine.
for a good product.
You know what it is he knows that when he goes to the referees conference, he's like, oh man, I can't wait to tell that story at the bar over and over again until people are sick of me. All right. We are on 206. You guys ready for this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Hello and welcome to Circling the Cup, San Jose Sharks podcast, episode number 206. If you've been wondering where we've been, well, we took an extended Thanksgiving vacation because really, the Sharks are kind of where they are, and they're probably going to be where they are for most of the season. Does that mean things didn't happen? No, things certainly happened. This podcast, though, we're going to talk about, I think, the question on everyone's mind that actually has a very simple answer, but is worth asking anyway, which is, Sharks okay? I'm Alex. Here with me, as always, is the Honorable Ben. What's up, Ben?
I blame grad school for our delays.
No, it's not all on you. I was traveling for work. We have real life jobs. This is a side hobby here. And of course, not on the other podcast because, well, it's just so damn far away from Sweden is Colin. What's up, Colin? How you doing?
Cold.
Yeah,
Very
I bet.
cold.
I bet you and the reindeer out there are cold. Well, folks, where we last left this podcast off, I think the Sharks had started to turn a slight corner after having been talked to by their dad. Now it's been about, I think, 3 weeks since we've done a podcast. Sharks have been a little bit all over the place, as one would expect, but at least on most nights, not getting absolutely embarrassed. Although I will say, Mike Hoffman's passing is still embarrassing, really bad, man. He clicks it on for one day, clicks it off for another day. But what we've seen is a couple of lineup changes. We've seen certainly a little bit of streakiness in certain areas. Like I'll throw Kakinen out there as a guy who can have an absolutely brilliant game and then an absolutely terrible game. Again, the whole team sucks and the defense in front of him isn't very good. So that's a factor, but he goes from standing on his head to not standing on his head pretty quickly. But Ben, I know you kind of wanted to talk about this because, the technically the score lines are shrinking against the deficit against other teams seems to have shrunk, I guess, especially if you want to look at this week where the Sharks had a 6-3 win over the Devils, which we'll get to. Are the Sharks doing better, or is there something else that's going on that we should be mindful of, you think?
I have a different wording for this question, actually.
Go ahead.
Is parity in the NHL down to scheduling or actual skill distribution?
Well, let me say two things, because there's one that's going to make Sharks fans kind of sad. I think if you were a Sharks fan who thinks, oh, David Quinn's a genius, look at him, he's getting them to play, oh, it's going to get better, we're going to make the playoffs. If you're that delusional fan, I have bad news for you. But before I say that, what I will say that I think is an improvement is that the Sharks sort of seem to have moved on from some of their less mobile defensemen. Yeah. And even though, it's weird that it's not like Thrun who's getting the chance here to be the mobile guy, at least they're giving, Addison and Emberson, opportunities to try to make the bad defensemen that they continue to play look a little bit better. We've been, I think, helped a little bit by injuries there, because I think Ruda's hurt, right? That's probably why he's not playing.
Right.
They did just waive Knizhov, and I hope some other team picks him up, both because he's not very good and also because he deserves, a chance to play somewhere. And I don't think he's going to get it here, which is the right call.
Right.
So anyway, I think that has helped a little bit structurally to at least get the Sharks, out of their zone. And I think that's at least playing a bit of a role, I think in their improvement. But the reality is, they're 4-5-1 in their last 10 games, and that has largely been driven by save percentage. Right. It's not driven by them being particularly much better in the offensive zone. I kind of been parsing the stats a bit, because I also have been curious if there's been a change I didn't see on the ice. And the reality is they're still getting clubbed, in terms of shooting shots on goal, basically. I mean, this team they should not have won the New Jersey game the way they did, in any way, shape, or form, right? Like, they deserve, basically they played the exact same way they did against Boston, and they just benefited from a bad goalie or some good bounces or whatever.
A lot of good bounces.
Yeah, a lot of them. And good shooting maybe in look, okay, I'll give Mario Ferraro one thing. He's a terrible defenseman, but it turns out he's an okay playmaker. So,
that falls into the trend that we talked about over the last couple of years that the Sharks focus on. Really, the whole NHL has focused on, which are defensemen that are offensively inclined, maybe not necessarily the best defenseman, but getting heralded as awesome defensemen, right?
So the short answer to have they gotten better is no. They're riding a very hot goaltending tandem, like incredibly hot. The save percentage, that the Sharks are writing right now over those 10 games is 92.
This is my favorite thing, Ben. This is my favorite thing. When you have a team that is really struggling, you sort of have to find things to look for to enjoy the season. Right now, the obvious one is watching prospects. The Sharks, the way they kind of handle the prospects is, you're not necessarily. We did see Gushin come up, which is kind of cool. we are getting to see a lot of Eklund, obviously, and other people have sort of kind of popped in and popped out. I don't know that they're necessarily giving you as much of that as you would hope, but I have found enjoyment elsewhere, and that is watching the Sharks absolutely destroy all goaltending stats, regardless of whether it's for them or the other team. Because when you go and you look at these games, I've had people go, "Man, Blackwood sucks, huh?" And I go, "No, he's actually really good." Like, despite the dude's facing like 50 shots. Yeah, he let 7 in. That's 50 shots. Same with this game the other day against the New Jersey Devils. New Jersey Devils, the Sharks had 18 shots. They scored 1 of every 3 shots that they took. The Devils shot 47 times and lost that game. So, the opposing goaltenders are like, "Please don't make me play this team. They're going to screw up my stat line." The Sharks goalies are like, "Please get me off this team. They're going to screw up my stat line." And for me, I don't know. I find that thoroughly entertaining.
I do want to kind of break in on that and just note that it's not like the Sharks are shooting like lights out either. Right?
No.
Like they're in this 10-game stretch, their wins are entirely predicated on their goalies playing out of their minds.
Yes.
Or getting lucky. Their shooting percentages, over the 10 games is a very pedestrian, like 7.5%, or 8.5%. Sorry. It's not terrible, but it's not what's driving this, right? What's driving this is that their goalies are playing insane.
Oh yeah, they're keeping them in every game. And look, I mean, here's the beautiful thing about that. The timing is way off from when we really needed it. But at the end of the day, that's what you want your goaltenders to do. You want your goaltenders to be able to keep you in the games. And that, for the most part, most nights, is what definitely Blackwood. And again, Kokkonen depends on the night. But they're giving the Sharks the opportunity to improve their play on the ice. Now, the Sharks aren't necessarily making leaps and bounds in that. I do want to point out one thing, Ben, that Colin, that we did talk about in the beginning of the season, which I do think does factor into where Quinn is a little bit. And this isn't a defensive Quinn, because at this point, I'm not seeing enough to feel comfortable defending him at all. But again, there was a relatively large shift in the personnel on this team, both in front and behind. Couture is still out, right? So you don't have your captain there. And this is a lot of people coming in and trying to figure out a different system than they're used to. Now, is that system good or working? No, not really. Are they nailing the fundamentals still? No, which is why I'm still, not super into Quinn at the moment, because it seems like they're not improving on a lot of the basic mistakes that they're making, maybe in a couple of areas, but there was always going to be an adjustment period. So is it surprising maybe that the Sharks went from a maximum suckitude, I guess is the word I'm going to make up there, to pretty bad? No, not really, because at some point those players were going to start to figure out at least a little bit of what Quinn wanted them to do. Now, again, that is not enough, and they are not a high enough quality of player on average to pull that together. And they're still not completely playing as a team. I will say it does feel, it just from the eye test, it looks like they're, air quote, playing for each other a little bit more than they are, than they have. But again, you see a lot of errant passes. You see, areas that seem like just communication bloopers and stuff like that. But they were always going to get, gradually a little bit better. Now, I think the big question.
Luckier.
But see, I don't think it's all luck either. I mean, I'm not saying their skill level has jumped, but when they were playing these games, if you look back at the games in the very beginning of the season, all of October, you had a collection of players that were never in the correct point for each other almost at any point in time. You saw that a lot with the awful passing, the awful defensive zone play, where you had 3 guys chasing the puck carrier and then wide open players on the other side. We're starting to see less of that, which is good. Now, that's not, I don't look at that as their skills got up and they're figuring out how to put the whole thing together, as much as they are figuring out, where each other are going to be. They're figuring out how to read each other a bit better. That's what's going to happen with repetition in general, right? If you play with these players, if you play with your teammates long enough, regardless of whether or not you guys are doing what you're supposed to be doing in the system, you're going to have a better understanding of, well, this is how Mike Hoffman plays and how he thinks and where he's likely going to be. This is where Duclair, here's how he's going to play the game. Because I think, we have a lot of players that just kind of play a different style. They haven't been pulled together very well in the system. Again, that's where Quinn, the coaches really, need to figure things out and eventually do a better job, whether it's this season or next season or whatever's going on. But you are going to get that familiarity, and that is going to help a little bit. Now, again, not saying they're good, not saying they're getting dramatically better. I'm just saying they were always going to be their worst in the very beginning. It seems like common sense, but there's a lot of fans that seem to miss that or have forgotten about that.
Okay, so like the big highlights I'm seeing outside of goaltending are a lot of our players are playing with a lot more energy, and they look like people who are really, really trying to build the case for why they should be traded to a playoff team. Like it honestly feels at times like Greer listened to the last podcast we did, went, having a conversation might be useful.
I think Greer has always sort of intended on these to be low. I mean, we talked about this earlier, right? They've always been low risk gambles with the potential to flip. I think the question is really going to be how, come trade deadline, how do teams actually view these players and where they're at? Because I would still look at a player like Mike Hoffman right now. I'm going to pick on him a little bit, not because he can't shoot when he wants to shoot,
But because he deserves it.
Well, I mean, like, that's the thing is that, like, look, is this team bad? Yeah. Is the combination of players right? No. Is the coaching great? No. Is this team set up for success? Not at all. Would I consider picking up Duclair at the trade deadline if I'm a team right now? I don't know, because right now what I'm seeing with the Sharks, honestly, this is actually, I think, their biggest problem, and this is why I don't necessarily think all their success is luck, nor do I think all their lack of success is bad luck. They have an issue shooting, like, and I don't even mean with their just general aim. I mean, we saw a couple of instances here where the Sharks were on I think 5-on-3 power play, and they're just passing. And this is something the Sharks, regardless of who's seemingly been on the team, have always had a problem with. When you go back and look at the Thornton era, we would sort of, and I love Thornton, but we would watch certain power plays or clock dwindling situations where the Sharks really needed to be shooting, and they would sort of pass it around looking for the perfect shot and then run out of time to kind of get it. And when you see the Sharks right now, like, I see the Sharks passing way, way more than they need to be and shooting way, way, way less. And that's not just, that's obviously reflected on the shots on goal. And some of that is the Sharks aren't getting themselves in good positions to shoot from, and that's fine. But, for me, like, I'm watching Duclair pass constantly when I need Duclair to be shooting. If I'm a team, if I'm a team that's looking to pick him up at the trade deadline, I'm not looking for him to be a playmaker. I'm looking at him to be a scorer. Granlund might be the only player right now on and off who kind of looks like it's maybe more a symptom of the team. Not that I think he's particularly great right now either, but there's still time, obviously, for these guys to boost their trade value and for Greer to put the hard sell. But when you look at how the team was playing in October, you weren't going to move a single one of these guys. Like, they were bad and they were playing bad.
But like, you look at the last week and a half, and they're showing life, and it's why I'm curious about what is actual parity in this league, ignoring the call the rule book arguments about officiating. Just is it the scheduling and the fact that the number of games these guys go through, just it breaks them? Like,
yes,
because like the New Jersey are just battered, and they come in and play us, and they're probably like looking way past us, just going, yeah, whatever. We've got grander ambitions than the Sharks. And a bunch of puck luck and great goaltending happens, and they kind of look foolish. But like, let's keep in mind, New Jersey was beaten in like the previous games coming up to us. So
I think something that I've noticed with the Sharks, and the Sharks, suddenly playing more seemingly for each other, and I noticed it very heavily in the New Jersey game, is I think the Sharks maybe have figured out that playing them can be a miserable experience. Because what I saw in that game was a New Jersey Devils team very early on in that game that were like, why are we losing to this team? And you could see, like, I'm half joking, but you could like read the frustration on their lips as they were like yelling at each other. And I think, a lot of teams kind of come in right now to not really paying Sharks, too much attention. You're probably right there, Colin, where they're kind of looking a game down, and then all of a sudden they find themselves, down a goal, and then they get frustrated and things break down a little bit. Now the Sharks, that breakdown doesn't last the entire game in most situations. The Sharks basically have to hold on because the other team does start to step it up. But it's kind of a funny point.
I just want to jump in and point out, though, it's only the final score that makes it look like the Devils looked past the Sharks, guys. They didn't.
True.
No. I know, but when you watch those players in between whistles, as they were showing them, you could see them barking at each other, yelling at each other. There was a frustration level that was very, very evident, and it should have been. Been, right?
I mean, I get it. Like,
the more frustrated you play, oftentimes the sloppier you can play. So maybe that's what the Sharks need to do, is they need to figure out how to make teams feel like they're getting humiliated on a national television, and then the team breaks down.
So here's the magic recipe for that. You get the opposing goalie to let in some pretty not great shots, and then you start to look like maybe the game is slipping away, and then you get a lucky goal to pull an extra goal ahead, and boom. I mean, that's reproducible, right?
Yeah, but Ben, actually, Ben, you're being sarcastic, but I'm going to say it is, and here's why. All the Sharks' shots and goals are pretty crappy, so they already get that one right off the bat.
Well, I mean, to that point, this is the first time. Let me emphasize, the first time the Sharks have scored more than one goal on the road.
Yeah,
all season long.
They scored they scored their road total that game. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, because you compare to like what else this week? Boston and the Caps. Like, the Caps are trash. Like, they're not even a glimmer of their former self. Watching Ovi pass off shot opportunities, it looked like he's gone skydiving without a parachute. Whereas Boston is the team. Well, they looked a lot like the team from last year that would just, tear you apart. And, when it mattered, they'd get the job done. And just any team that looks like they belong on the ice against the Sharks right now is like not a good look. So I think letting us stay in a game, even two periods, is a bad look, and like we'll start to wear on teams more and more later in the season.
To be clear, the Caps aren't trash. The reason they look trash is because their goal differential is kind of floppy right now, and they're not getting the level of scoring that you would anticipate them getting. They can still play defense at the end of the day. And the Sharks are in a position where they neither want to play defense nor are they shooting, right? So what you get with the Sharks, I think, swing this back around to Ben's point. Honestly, the Sharks are where they are because of the goaltending. And again, it's ironic that we now have goaltenders who can stand on their heads when we don't, when the rest of the team really isn't going to go anywhere. When really, if you had a goaltender like Blackwood, the way Blackwood is playing right now in that Niemi era, right? Because like Niemi was fine, but come playoff time, he didn't really step up in a big way. If you had Blackwood, Sharks probably win a cup in that era there. Now they're getting that, but the rest of the team isn't really doing a lot. The only thing that the Sharks are good at, again, we talked about this last time, and I know, Ben, you shrugged it off a little bit, and that's fair, but it is the only thing they're good at, is faceoffs. They seem to be really good at faceoffs. Now, what they do with the puck afterwards,
Well, like the Boston game, I love because the Boston commentator just nailed the Sharks to the wall with one throwaway comment of, the Sharks don't defend the middle. And it's like, nope, never.
Sharks
not once this season.
Sharks don't defend any portion of the ice for the most part. I mean, like that's the interesting thing is, if you talk to me when we did the last podcast, and you said, Alex, if we got better defensemen, do you think the Sharks could be good? I would have said, no. I think the Sharks would be a lot better because the biggest issue that they've had is both playing defense and generating offense by, the defense pushing things up, because playing their defensive zone, it's not as bad as it was in October. It's still not very good. But I would have looked at the forward group and I would have said, if you have a defense that can push things up and keep playing the offensive zone as well, the Sharks will probably do better. Now I'm sort of 50-50 on whether or not I feel that way. I feel like Eklund, sure, yeah, I think Eklund gets it a lot. Zetterlund, I'm liking him for the most part. I get excited about Duclair. I was hoping Duclair would put more, pucks in net. But beyond that, like I love Hertl. Is Hertl playing to his contract? No. Now, obviously, he had, stones and a couple of health things and stuff like that. But still, like, he's not playing to where we need him. Couture hasn't even played, right? Which is a big, issue. Not that I think he comes in and suddenly that team is magically good or the offense is magically good, but it does make a difference. He is a good player. It does make a difference. I think a lot of the players that we just have on this offense and defense are just, kind of throwaway players.
So when you say better defensemen, do you mean like the entire core is better, or like we, transport 2008 Dan Boyle forward and we just have Boiler?
Well, no, I mean, but here's the thing, right? And I know we've talked about this over the years. Like, a lot of people mistake bad goaltending as the goaltender sucks. A lot of people mistake poor offense as the offense sucks. And sometimes that is correct. Like, yes, those play a part. If your goaltender sucks, he will suck at playing goal. If your offense can't shoot or pass, then yeah, they are going to be pretty bad. But the reality is that when you watch and play hockey, the defense plays a very large role in both of those. Now, again, the goaltending one's probably a little more obvious because you think of goaltending as a defensive act. But, when it comes to offense, it doesn't mean that you need guys like Burns or Carlson. Like, you need your defensive players to be snipers. But what it does mean is that they need to be able to apply pressure well in the defensive zone, so to keep the puck higher up in the zone towards the neutral zone, so that you can get turnovers. They need to be able to either support or QB in a lot of cases the rush through that neutral zone, and they need to be able to hold the puck within the offensive zone. If your defensive team can't do that, your offense is going to struggle mightily, and your goaltending is going to struggle mightily. So there is a role that those players play. So to answer your question, would one person make a difference? A marginal difference. If you had a personal line, then and I'm not saying you all of a sudden have like Carlson's on every line. It's a totally different story. But like, if you could solidify your pairings to get more responsible defensive play, then the Sharks would be a better team. Would they be a good or great team? Probably not. They still don't really have that quality of player, and they really don't have that quality of coaching when, again, you look at the amount of fundamentals that don't seem to really be improving from week to week. And some are, but not enough. But that would make a difference, I think. But I don't necessarily want that difference, because
we should be losing.
Because again, like the Sharks need to find that balance of being competitive enough and not like mentally deflating enough that they can bring in some of their youth, give them reps that aren't incredibly soul crushing, and give them experience, so that, regardless of whether or not you're bringing and keeping them up for the full season, at least you are starting to get them conditioned for it. Because next year and on, you're going to have guys like Musty. Musty looks great right now in his league. Smith looks, pretty good. And the Sharks need a few more of those players. They're only really going to be able to get those players if they have a higher draft position, right? So you don't really want the Sharks to be doing excellent. What you do want is you want the Sharks to be playing competitive enough so that their players are taking gradual steps forward, versus just sucking, not wanting to be there, overly in their own head, frustrating. Because that can, there is a mental side of the game, and these are professionals, and they do recover quicker than most. But, soul crushing is soul crushing at the end of the day.
5 to 4 losses.
Yeah, 5 to 4 losses.
Exactly. Season of 5 to 4 losses.
Yes.
And that's what we wanted. And I mean, I feel this is also the Bordeleau and Throne should be up on the main roster discussion all over again.
Wait, hold on. Sorry, Colin, I got to interrupt. Can I correct one thing about what Ben just said? 5-4 regulation losses.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Not overtime losses like last year. Sorry,
yes,
Colin.
Correct. Well, I feel this because the whole point I feel we're making again is we should be playing towards next season, more likely the season after, and getting that base chemistry for the players who are actually going to be around in that point, which, it would be nice to know if Thrun is going to be one of those players.
I would spend a hell of a lot more time trying to figure out right now with the prospects and the players that I have. I'd be trying really hard right now to figure out who I think that defensive core is and getting those guys in position and playing together. Because again, if you're going to pull up a guy like Bordeleau or Gushin, but there isn't going to be the defensive support there, not necessarily doing those guys massive favors in their call-ups.
Gushin did nothing wrong.
I agree. I agree that he didn't at all, Ben. But, also, like, you really want to get that guy at the growth rate that he needs. The Sharks got to also be able to support that. And I think that's what scares us about their prospect.
He's on the Barracuda.
Yeah, no,
I'm no better.
Oh, no, I know. Well, that's what I was getting at. That's the thing that kind of sucks, is that the Sharks don't really have that anywhere, it feels like right now.
So my contention still would be, and I think I don't think you guys are not aligned with me here. My contention would still be that he should be getting NHL reps.
I agree.
If the organization sucks at both levels, he should still be playing NHL talent. Yep. I mean, Gushin is good. He's really good. And I'd say the same thing about Bordeleau.
Yeah.
The problem is that there's a clear preference that those guys not be on the NHL team right now, right? Probably from the coaching side of things.
Is it just the eyeball test, or has the team been playing way chippier for the last couple of weeks?
Yeah,
so I feel part of the energy has been physical.
They've been playing chippier, but I think they've been playing chippier mainly because they're not getting humiliated right out the gate. And again, like, there's a mental side of this game. If there comes a point where you're just like, F it, man, this is embarrassing. And I think that this is the one thing that I think has switched for them, if anything, has been that they legitimately got sick of being embarrassing and then got yelled at about it. And we're like, all right, well, we're like, even if we lose, we just can't lose like that, which honestly is about all you can ask for. Is the right response from the teams.
I'm not so sure, man, because they were getting embarrassed right up to the Thanksgiving break. We only have a 5-game sample here of them not getting embarrassed. Yeah. And there's nothing in the world to suggest that they won't end up losing 7-1 again today. Right? Like, so, I want to be careful about.
Oh, no, hold on. I disagree. Well, hold on. But I disagree. I disagree with that. Yeah. They were giving up, around 5 goals again. That's an improvement from 10 to 10 to 1.
Whoa. I mean, okay.
Not with the outlier there having been that Seattle game being a 7-1 affair. The Sharks in the month of November, so they started it. They lost 10-1, to the Canucks, 10-2 to the Penguins. Then they win against the Flyers. They win against the Oilers. And boy, was that embarrassing for the Oilers. They lose 5-0. They lose 5-0 to Vegas. Is that great? No. Is that one that you would have predicted? Absolutely. And is 5-0 a good score for them to come out of it that game, given where they were before? Yeah, absolutely. Lose 4-1 to Ducks, not great there. They lose 5-3 to the Panthers. Again, not great, right? They are giving up a lot of goals, but they're starting to score a little bit more and giving up a little bit less. They win 5-1 against the Blues, and they lose 3-1. Again, that's an improvement there. Then they lose 7-1. Right, there you go. That one sucked for sure. And then they lose a shootout, and then they win, and then they win. So and then they lose 3-0. So I would look at that, and I would say, when you look at October compared to November, they're doing better in November.
Yeah, but you still just recounted all of your data up to Thanksgiving break supports exactly what I said, and your data post Thanksgiving break supports exactly what I said. This improvement, whatever it is, if it is an improvement, is a 5-game swing. That doesn't mean anything at the moment. Like they still were losing 7-1, right?
No, but we're losing
4-1, 5-3.
Yeah, but they're not averaging 7-1. You know what I
no
mean?
team averages 7.
Well, you know what? Why don't you go look at
give
the Sharks?
them time.
Why don't you look at the Sharks to begin this month, and it sure as hell looked like they might end up averaging that pretty quick.
Yeah, I don't. I'm just saying that nothing has really changed that much at the as we've basically opened the podcast saying nothing has changed that much fundamentally underlying their play to suggest that they won't go out and lose 7-1 today and then 6-2 in a couple of games. Like let's pump the brakes a little bit and continue to observe. Now, Barabanov is back today. That's obviously good. Right. Ruda is back today, which is obviously bad. So we're
right. They balance each other out, right?
I'm interested to see kind of like where that leads.
They also their losing streak was also unsustainable. Technically, no team goes,
No, I look. You said earlier that you don't feel like the team was unlucky early on, and actually the vibe I got from that, from being what was it 9-1, was that actually again I had expected them to have a few games where they got the bounces and they did get a win or two, and they just had none of those games in that first stretch. And it's a long season, so I think honestly, if I'm going to step back and say what I think we're seeing here is regression to the mean. They were extremely unlucky early. Also, I totally agree with you, by the way, Alex, that there is a measure of getting used to your players, your partners on your lines and what have you, that probably has helped them not be as desperately bad as they were in the first 10 games.
Sure.
But I don't think that abstracts out that I felt like they were unlucky. And I said this at the time in those first 10 games. And I think they are getting luckier here. Particularly, I think that, on the goaltending side, they're getting, I'm not to say that Blackwood or Koch have played nothing but bad games.
Right.
But I don't know that they are. I don't know that they're. You said you think Blackwood is good enough that he would have, turned. I
think Blackwood's pretty good. I think Kakkonen is very average. And
this is kind of the key, though. The word "think," right? Like,
oh, right, yeah, of course.
I think Blackwood has had games where he's played out of his mind. Absolutely. Yep. He's had a couple bad stinkers too. I don't know how much we can really judge his quality with the players he's got in front of him. Is what I would say. What I will say is certainly if we still had like fucking some of our prior goaltenders in goal right now, we'd be in real worse shape. Which is honestly, maybe that would be better for us.
Hey man, if we had Stanley Cup champion Adin Hill, we'd be going to the playoffs.
Well, this is the thing. So this is the thing that drives me a little bit nuts. The one thing about the community right now that drives me a little bit nuts is people are already looking at trading Blackwood. I know that there are rumors out there for obvious reasons because while you're right, Ben, I would say he's had a lot more stunning performances despite the score than he has of those piss poor ones. And again, I think if you get he's I'm not saying he's Barry Sanders, but it's kind of like Barry Sanders where it's like, yeah, he's pretty good now. You get a proper defense in front of him, he'll probably be good there too, if not better. My question is, there are a lot of fans who are like, trade him now. Trade him to Edmonton, trade him. Do you trade him?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about Edmonton because I just don't know what you're getting back.
Connor McDavid, obviously.
God, that would be the only way the mishandling of McDavid's career could get worse.
That is the annoying thing is you do see quite well, he's probably pretty unhappy there. I'm like, he's not going to be happy here, guys.
Yeah. Sorry. To be more clear, I don't look. Blackwood has a certain contract he's on here, right?
Yes.
And the Sharks are not going to be good within the length of that contract.
No.
Which means that at some point you are going to have to move him, right? Like,
but potentially, you got to remember
I don't think the Sharks are good enough to hold on to him in the time that he's with us. Personally,
sure.
And also the Sharks don't have a lot of those like, shit, we might get something really good for it. And when you get an opportunity to take advantage of a dumb GM, Edmonton's GM is real fucking bad. You do it, even if it costs you a guy who might be a goaltender you want to have in 3 years.
It depends. It depends. I think it depends on. Yes, you're not incorrect. That assumes that you make the correct trade, right?
Yes.
Like if you're giving him away for like a 4th or 5th rounder, I'm like, no.
I think it's the thing of, do you get the right offer for him? He's not a precious commodity.
No, he's not. I agree.
Because the Sharks are bad, and we want them to be bad this year.
But like, I could see an idiot GM giving up a second and a roster player.
I don't think so. Look, Mike Grier.
Dumber things have happened, and the cap's going up. Like, come on.
I think some of it has to do with your confidence in your goaltending pipeline, which I still have not gotten the sense
that
the Sharks have that confidence. And when you look at a player like Blackwood, is he super young? No. Is he young for a goaltender? Yeah, technically. And again, goaltenders are voodoo. Yeah. They do tend to mature later. They do tend to last longer on average. Do you need to tie him down for a long term? No. Do not mistake what I'm saying there. You don't need to do that. But it is. I see what you're saying, Ben, and I don't disagree. It is possible that within that 2-year time that we have Musty up, we have Smith up, and the team is starting to turn a corner, which may be appealing to him, because that's what it is at the end of the day. You need to determine whether or not you have someone better that is going to come in, or you have a pipeline that you think is ready to go, and you know what that is, and you want to develop that.
What did it cost GM Mike Grier to get Blackwood?
Well, Blackwood's a reclamation project. Right.
Okay, what did it cost to get him?
It was like a draft. I can't even remember.
It was a 6th rounder.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He's worth more than that. So yes, you would be making money off of your.
No. I'm not even trying to make that point. The point I'm trying to make is that I don't think you have to be precious about your goaltending pipeline either, because what the Sharks have shown over and over again is that there are goaltenders that people don't value appropriately.
Of course,
that you can get a hold of when you need them.
But I bet you that a lot of fans would also argue that the reason the Sharks don't have a cup would also be partially goaltending.
Yes, but it was misevaluation of the goaltenders they had.
Yeah,
right? Like they thought
not understanding
was
how
the guy.
Right.
They thought Martin Jones was the guy. They didn't make him. And Martin Jones also. What did they get him for? Like a 6th-round draft pick, right? Like it's a combination of things. There's going to always be goaltenders available that could. I mean, Adin Hill, you guys.
I would argue, and I think you're making the same argument, and I don't disagree. I would argue that it is a lot easier of all the positions to find and get a competent player in. Goaltending is probably the easiest because there are so few positions and so many goaltenders, and there's a lot of opportunity. However, the one thing that I would slightly counter, not full counter, Ben, I'm not disagreeing with you at all, is that the Sharks right now, they need to start solidifying areas where they can. So if and yes, they do need to do it within looking at like really more of a 3 to 5 year window to really have those things start to be set. And I think that's where the timing with Blackwood is a really good point and a really good question as to whether or not they can kind of be at that inflection point, whether or not they, it would make sense. And by that point, they would have the sample size to really, know. But if hold on. But if the Sharks suddenly get their forward core going and they have no defense, or they have no goaltending, they will be fucked. If they have their defense work and they don't have the forwards or the goaltending, they will be fucked. If they have the goaltending formed and they don't have the other two, they will be fucked, right? Because what this is, especially with where the Sharks are, this is the thing that I think fans misunderstand about rebuilds. There's a lot of, not you guys, there's a lot of fans that think rebuild and then we'll be good. No, a lot of teams struggle through that period. Arizona for forever, Edmonton for a long time. Because it's about making sure that you have all 3 of those areas. They have to be timed correctly. That's what it is. If you're too far in any one area and the others are not there, and there isn't a period where they're all going to overlap, you're not going to be a great team. You're not going to win a Stanley Cup. So I think that's the one thing that they need to do. Should they be listening to trades for Blackwood right now? Abso-fucking-lutely. Absolutely. Do they need to jump on it? If it's an amazing deal or a really good then that's where I would strongly consider it. Is it a late draft? If it's a late draft pick, would I consider it for Blackwood right now? No, absolutely not. What I would do is I would continue to, personally, I'd play Blackwood more as a starter, continue to play him, continue to watch, continue to have conversations, and continue to look at my goaltending pipeline very closely. Can you sub in a goalie real easily without having that pipeline? Yeah, absolutely. But again, you pull Blackwood out right now, this team is way effing worse.
Which
and
is
it's
good.
not going to help develop.
Yeah,
well,
which is on target.
Well, it depends, right? Because you don't want to screw up guys like Eklund and if you want to be talking about pulling Gushin up, which I fully support. I agree with you guys. Bordeleau and Gushin, there's no reason for them to be in the AHL right now. I don't buy into that logic. But you don't want to put them into a terrible, terrible, terrible scenario either. That's not great. So you do need to make sure that you have some balance, because if you start throwing those guys in and they're losing every game 10-1 again because your goaltending sucks, which we
lost 10-1 because we have no defense.
Yeah, right. Understood. And the reason it was 10-1 was because there were instances where you had a goaltender, despite it being 10-1, still standing on their head just to get you to 10-1. Yeah, make no mistake at how bad they were playing, or how unlucky they were, if you want to look at it that way, through the month of October and the very beginning of this month. Those scores could have been, I mean, that's again, circling back, why I think it's so fun to watch how the Sharks are fucking up everyone's goaltending statistics, because you look at the statistics for, you look at the shots against and you're like, holy shit. Wow, you saved a lot of those, even though you were losing by that much, right?
Yep.
That's not going to get better. And I don't think Kahkonen, I think Kahkonen, of the two of those right now, and again, we've seen more of Kahkonen, obviously, technically, just over the years, but Kahkonen to me seems way more hot cold than Blackwood seems. Blackwood seems more consistently air quote hot.
I mean, let's say in a year's time, we're coming back and talking about how Greer just turned the Sharks into this rapid fire goalie distribution team where they just bring in, struggling goaltenders, let them get shelled by other teams as the Sharks go on their march. And then, Greer goes and flips the person for a fourth or a third, and we just have a bunch of picks at the draft. That's some video game nonsense, but it's a weird league, and this year has been insane. And even with all your examples, I feel the main point you made was we have to actually build a solid core, and a core includes defense. And until we have that, any goalie that's above the age of 25 is better a trade asset than something that we're going to commit to, unless it's, you find yourself with a Vasilevsky or just, some lights out, oh my God, goaltender.
Right, which is rare. Right.
Which is insanely rare.
Yeah. Let me make one last kind of point, building on what you just said, Colin. So, and what Alex you're arguing for. So my point would be is that there's going to be a point in time where the Sharks are missing a piece in this trudge towards
not now
potential new Stanley Cup franchise run, right?
Yeah, 2020 or 2010 to 2016. We experienced that.
My point would be that the one that's probably easiest to address at the deadline, the trade deadline, is goalie, or in an offseason, right?
Or you find a Zamboni driver.
So that's why I say, you're absolutely right that the Sharks have to make progress in a lot of areas. They have to develop and get into the roster good defensemen. I'm encouraged by Emberson and Addison. I'd like to be encouraged by Thrun and Mukhamadullin, whose name just constantly causes me problems.
It's better than
and I'm not afraid for both of those players. We haven't seen it. Did you say Okutia?
Okutia, yeah. I can always butcher that one. We'll never get that right.
So we need to see that, and then of course, obviously, we need to see Musty and Smith and Eklund and Gushin and what have you integrated up into the lineup to the point where in 2 or 3 years, those are the guys that are playing well and creating that foundation. And I think what ideally we'd also see is there's a young goaltender in our pipeline who is making progress towards that too. I guess what I would say is it's, to me anyway, it's far harder to get a hold of guys like Eklund guys like potentially Mukmadulin in trades, particularly if you're not giving away a guy like Timo Meier, which we don't really have any more of anyway.
Right.
But it's the difficulty level of getting a serviceable goaltender who can play well enough to get you a cup is very clearly easier.
Yeah, again, but I would let me amend this though, because I'm not saying that you don't. Just to be clear, what I'm saying is Blackwood right now is a player. Fans right now are rushing to flip Blackwood, and what I'm saying is I would go a little slower in that thinking. If the right deal surfaces, yeah, you look at it and you'll likely take it. Would I rush to move him over other players? Not right now, because the Sharks do. Because with how bad the Sharks defense is, the Sharks do need a goaltender who is capable of keeping them in games enough to develop those players. So, like, if someone comes knocking at the door for Granlund, flip them tomorrow. Don't even think twice about that one, in my mind. If someone comes in and wants Blackwood, what is it you're asking for? Let's have a conversation about it. I think that's the right way to approach it.
By the way, just stepping in here, you guys want to have a good 30-second laugh?
Go.
Uh-oh.
So Shang is claiming that people are calling after Ferraro.
Take him.
God,
take him. You got him.
So fast.
Take my Ferraro, please.
So fast,
right away. But again, that's my point here.
What would you take?
Is there players who immediately, I think, on this roster I would look at? And again, this is actually purely situational, because you know what, Ben? If you ask me, in most years, I would probably, if the Sharks had a better defense in front of them, I'd probably say, yeah, just whatever. Go with the goaltender. This year, because they don't have that, I'm looking at goaltending being one of the sort of stronger positions that they have at the moment. So, Ferraro, listen, guys like Ferraro, I love Hertl. I don't think Hertl's going anywhere. I think that contract and his play right now make him pretty much untradeable, at least in the current situation. But, that's if people come and knocking for, I think, some of the older forwards, or I'm going to say more established, with air quote, defensemen we have on our team, go take it, because those are players, I think, right now, unless they are the Mukmadulins or the Thruns or the Eklunds, I think all that support, most of the supporting cast players right now, they're not even, their intent isn't even to have them here for that. I think the goaltending is the one area where maybe there might be holdover there, depending on the situation. We got a couple games, and we got to get to 3 stars here because we're going a bit long. So we did have 3 games this week. We're not going to do the whole month recovery. We kind of already captured that. Sharks were a little more lucky or a little less unlucky. This week, the Sharks took down, the Capitals by a score of 2-1. We had goals from Zetterlund and Luke Kunin. And then they lost to the Bruins, which pretty predictable. Not predictable. How badass is the combo of teal helmet with the white jersey? I like it. But again, they lost that by a score of 3-0. And, again, Bruins here, 37 shots on goal. So a lot. And then, they had it was a fun game. It was an embarrassing game for one of the teams for sure. Sharks on 18 shots beat the Devils, who had 47 shots, by a score of 6-3. And it's also kind of fun where those goals came from. So the first two goals the Sharks scored were from McDonald. Then Duclair got a pair in there, and then Granlund, and then Eklund got an empty net. Do you guys have any particular thoughts about these games at all? Or you want to go straight into 3 stars?
I mean, we talked about them a bit.
Yeah.
It's so weird for me to be happy to see the team going down, blocking shooting lanes and getting the front of pucks, when it's kind of like, no, it's okay. You can let that go by. But it's nice to see them, playing for each other in that way. It's nice to see, especially in, I think it was the Devils game. They were taking tons of shots. Yeah, I mean, it's nicer just to see them playing with energy, playing with some sort of life. So
yeah, well, and this was a game
that was nice.
This is a game too. I mentioned Kakkonen, to me, seems to be real hot, real cold, like really far pendulum swings. This one, he was great. I mean, he looked great. He definitely kept them in there. It's not just a 47 shots. There were a lot of high quality shots and plays there, and he really stood on his head, and that gave the Sharks the opportunity to stay in that game, let alone score one of every 3 they took, which, by the way, if they could figure out how to do that rate, I wouldn't care about them only shooting 18 times a game. But yeah, I don't know. Ben, any thoughts from you on that one or any of these?
That game particularly, I just want to emphasize, folks, that the Sharks should not have won that.
No,
game.
Yeah, they should not have won that.
Yeah. Their expected goals for percentage was 30%. They should have lost that game 6-3, not won it 6-3. And again, this is the thing. Like, we need to recognize that the Sharks are getting, when they're winning this last month, they are getting extremely lucky.
Yeah.
It's going to go back around, and then everybody's going to be back to where they were of like, oh God, David Quinn sucks. He's not good. And the reality is he sucked all along. Nothing has changed except their luck. And
yeah, is anyone just out of curiosity, is anyone saying otherwise that you see? I don't see anyone saying Quinn is suddenly good.
Again, like
I do see people saying, "Oh, that Greer discussion must have really lit a fire." Right. To which I go,
I think there's a lot. Look, again, I think mainly my issues here stem from the way that our state media, propaganda arm tries to convince our fan base that David Quinn is good, that certain plug players are what is making the team win, and so on and so forth. Baldy and unfortunately Randy and all of these guys, I don't know about Rizanowski because I don't listen to the radio side, are absolutely making fans dumber with most of their comments. And so I worry about that because,
I mean, I don't know what you're expecting them to talk about day in and day out, though. They can't sit here and gripe about it the same way.
No, I'm not asking them to gripe about it. What I would like to see them talk about is a little bit of, sort of recognize, a little bit the great goaltending in play. You can do that. You can recognize that the Sharks probably don't deserve 6 goals in that game and are playing on their heels as opposed to, this is what happens when you clutch it up and you grind.
Well, see, now you sound like Brett Hedican, and that one I definitely agree with.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Like, you've got Hahn largely. Well, Baldy's just as bad these days.
Which is a shame.
Well, he got fired for being honest in the first place.
Yeah.
And then, people hated him in Edmonton because he tried to bring that honesty. And I think, this time around, he was like, I'm going to be beloved. And here we are. But so I think you could still craft an entertaining and informative broadcast without making Sharks fans stupider.
Sure.
I'm certain you could. Because, the Kraken announcing crew and the things that they built did a very good job of being balanced when that team was not very good in its first year, and explaining to the fans, educating the fans as to what is worth being excited about and what is maybe problematic. I think the key issue here is that the Sharks coaching staff doesn't give them a lot to try to be that encouraging about on this end, right? Because David Quinn's very bad. And, they aren't really improving, but you could do it. I guarantee, I promise you could do it.
Well, 3 stars, guys, we're not going to do the month. We'll do the week. We're going to limit it to this last week, even though we missed a couple weeks there. Sorry, fans.
Easy peasy. I'll go first.
Go ahead.
All right.
Go for it.
By the way, this is the first time I think I've ever heard Ben volunteer to go first and not Cy.
No. He has.
All right. So
he's gonna get my star just for that improvement of his game.
Yeah, baby.
We've had him up in the big leagues calling long enough for him to learn.
All right. 3rd star of the month is Blackwood. 2nd star.
No, we said of the week. Guys, you already screwed it up.
Of the week is the goalie tandem. Fine. Okay. They get to share the 3rd star. 2nd star is Zetterlund. 1st star is Granlund. I love Zetterlund. Granlund has been very good. I particularly like how Granlund plays because it means we're going to be able to flip him.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to copy on the goalie duo for 3rd star. I was going to give Addison a 2nd just because he's been playing good and he took that monster hit. Which I hate Wilson, but I need to look at that hit again. It looked like one of those hits that I don't like, but
it was pretty gross. Okay. And Baldy and Hennigan played it off like it was a clean hit on the broadcast, but no, that hit was gross.
Okay, I won't go look at it. But yeah, like good on you, Addison. Hang tough. Hope to see more of you. You make a good point about Zetterlund. Zetterlund can have my top star because I wasn't a big fan going into the season of Zetterlund. I wanted to see him gone as quick as possible, but he's not so bad. So, good job.
That's your three right there.
Those are my three.
All right, my three. I was actually going to give Granlund my third star because I also agree with where you're at, Ben, especially on the setup front, which is not what I was originally looking at him for. I wasn't looking at a lot in general. I thought maybe he would put things on net a little bit more than he has been, but he's been playing pretty solid. Second would be that the goaltending tandem, which again, I don't think you can ignore, because I do think, luck or not, your goaltenders have to put you in the position to get that luck, and they are doing that, which is really good. And my first is the wonderful referee who decided to just call, and the best was it Brady Tkachuk's grandma, right? Or whoever's in that stand. Boy, it's all right. It's been a little bit, and I've had a busy week, but formally, my favorite referee is Wes McCauley. I only know 2 or 3 referees by name. Wes McCauley mainly because his calls are so hilarious and overdramatic. But there's just something about watching a referee come out and goes, and everyone else on the ice, 10-minute misconduct. I know we don't love watching fighting these days, but I do say, if we can get one of these calls every now and then and no one gets seriously hurt, I'll take it. So those would be my 3 stars. The Sharks right now, if you're wondering where they are in the division, well, wonder no more. They're last, but they kind of flipped a little bit that with the Oilers, which still makes it hilarious. They do have a minus 54 goal differential, so don't expect that to change anytime soon. They're sitting there right now. This is Sunday, the December 3rd, right? So they're going to play a game, I think, against the Rangers today. They are 6-16-2 with 24 game played. That is 14 points. Directly above them are the Edmonton Oilers at 19. Now, they are equally as bad. Well, I can't say equally. Chicago's also sitting there with 14 points, but they all have a much better goal differential. And I wonder why. I think there's a player whose name might.
Oh, Corey Perry, obviously.
But otherwise, yeah, they're pretty much tied for worst. Technically, they are worst, but tied for worst in the NHL. So fingers crossed.
No, we're worse. We have games in hand.
Well, sorry, you are correct. We have 2 games in hand, right? But Chicago can still blow it. So here we go. They play games where I changed a month in our month competition, and now I'm behind. They play today against the New York Rangers in New York, and they play Tuesday against the Islanders again in New York, and then they play in Detroit on Thursday, and then they'll be playing for podcasting on the 10th on Sunday against Vegas in Vegas. So they still got a lot of season left to watch here, Sharks fans, but at least we're seeing some luckier bounces this time around, Ben.
You made that sound like a threat.
Let me tell you something. This is one of those moments where you go, God damn it, this is a long season. But you know what? We watch to see them play the games, and I will say, I have found this month less soul crushing and more entertaining, whether for the right reasons or the wrong reasons. What do you
want to feel a lot better about modern hockey? Go back and watch highlights of Forsberg goals or something, Mario Lemieux goals back in the 90s. Man, the game is so beautiful these days. It was nasty back then.
It's because it's faster, and it's because it is more offensive thinking, whereas with the era you're talking about was very much protect the goaltender, large crease, trap. So I will agree. Yeah. High flying, crazy scoring hockey to me is more entertaining. But don't you worry, Ben. Don't you worry, Colin, because the way all sports work, cyclical. Someone will figure out that we just got to take away the space again, and then it'll get boring. So if I could crush more souls beyond just a Sharks play, just know that that is probably on the horizon. But say, speaking of soul crushing, you can follow this podcast on the Twitters, X, whatever, at Circling the Cup. Oh, I forgot. Apple Podcast people, you can subscribe on the podcast app, give us a review. Hey, not all of our podcasts are up. So if you're wondering how we're on 206 and why you can't see the old ones, well, let's be real. You weren't going to listen to like 8-year-old hockey podcasts anyways. It's just not how sports work. But we are at 206. That is real. Android people, Spotify, or figure it out. Of course, you can check us on the web at circlingthecup.com. And we do post when we are going to be live right before on Facebook at facebook.com/circlingthecup. Again, you can write us in on any of those channels or Discord. And we love questions. So if you want our take on something, if you want to know the skinny, shoot us a line. It will almost always make the podcast unless you're asking why it is Colin lives so far away. That's just, it hurts too much to talk about. Otherwise, guys, that concludes another month of San Jose Sharks hockey. Say bye-bye.
We don't talk about Colin's exile.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Sorry, that will go unmentioned. Sorry, Carl. Colin. I forgot that we weren't supposed to talk about that.
So dark.
And now we have a hook. And now we have a hook to the podcast for the next several weeks. Say bye, guys.
It's kind of cold and dark here too.
Bye-bye. That was fun. I do like not having a super tough schedule because it's tough, especially as kids get older, but I do miss talking to you guys, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, I didn't get to hear Ben rant about Torts calling the league a no-hit league.
What was that? I didn't even see him say that. What was that in response?
Oh, Torts, because there was this nasty check in
I saw this
in the game where the refs waved off the icing, but they waved it off like last second. God. So the defending player with his back to the play or to the rest of the ice, he let up because he's like, oh, it's icing, they're gonna call it, and they didn't call it. So the Philly player coming down on his back just drives him into the boards. Like it is brutal. It was the hit on Hughes's the defensive Hughes, the Devils one.
Quinn?
Jack,
is that the defensive?
There's too many Hughes in this league. God damn it.
There's 3,
and we have none of them.
4 now.
Hold on,
but it's the defender Hughes that's on the Devils. Luke. And he nasty hit. And then the refs threw the player who threw the hit out of the game. And it was like, well, what the hell are you doing? You caused this to happen, and then you gave the team that did the thing a 10-minute misconduct. And Tortorella's whole takeaway was, well, if they actually taught the kids to hit, he wouldn't have gotten rocked the way he did.
So dumb.
And it's like, oh my God, you jackass.
I mean, he's not wrong, but he's not correct.
And to me, it just goes straight back to if officiating was predictable and consistent.
Oh, he got hit by
like this one
Garnet Hathaway.
Yeah.
Fuck, put that guy in jail and throw away the key anyway.
Yeah,
that guy's a piece of shit and always has been.
So, like, to me, this is the exact crossroads of, if you want to get more high flying, more skill, more awesomeness, you need to start actually enforcing the rules properly and consistently, and not doing this game management bullshit. Like,